everyone out there in the world of YouTube, or wherever it is you may be checking out a clip, either on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. But I hope you find the full video, because as always, you won't be disappointed because it is great information. I have a distinguished guest today. So those of you familiar with the channel know what that means. My guest today is a certified public accountant. But before I get to her introduction, let me say my name is Jacqueline Anderson. And of course, everybody calls me Jackie. So thanks for tuning in, checking out the channel. Check out some other videos while you're here. Like, subscribe, share. Also leave a comment if you enjoyed the video or have some ideas about other videos. And if you can relate to the experiences or a CPA or on your journey, please reach out so you can be featured on the channel. But my guest today, she has her own firm. And like I said, she is distinguished because my guest today is Miss Telena Bolding, certified public accountant. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm looking forward to hearing about starting your own firm, being in the accounting world, and your CPA journey. So we'll get started with, what is your name on your birth certificate?
My name is Telena Bolding.
Okay, just as it is. I know.
No middle name.
Interesting. Why? You don't even have a middle name?
No. I've been talking with my mother about that for many years.
Were you the only one, or that was it in your family?
No, I'm the youngest of three girls, and my mother, I guess she got tired. I guess she said number three, whatever.
Okay, well, that's interesting, the difference. And where are you from?
I actually was born in Greenville, South Carolina, but I was raised in New York since I was 1 year old.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a Bronx girl, South Bronx.
Oh, New York City. Oh, truly city girl. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so when you were initially licensed as a CPA, what state was that?
Actually, I became licensed in the state of Georgia, and that goes with my journey. I took my first exam in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I attended college.
Okay.
And then I was moving to Atlanta, Georgia, and I, took my other exams in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Well, looking forward to hearing about that experience and transferring scores and how that works. Okay. So what is your CPA or state issue number?
It is 022218.
All right. Well, congratulations for that. Gotcha. What area or city, if you don't mind, would you currently live?
No, not at all. I currently live in Greenville, South Carolina, so I've navigated back here, although I still maintain a very big presence in Atlanta, Georgia. So it's not unusual for me to go back to Atlanta to work in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So you mentioned about going to college. So what college did you attend, and what degrees or your major?
Sure. I graduated in actually December. I did 4.5 years. I graduated in December 1991 with a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you majored in accounting, so you knew that's the direction you wanted to go.
Yes, I was a bean counter from the beginning.
That's okay. It pays very well, right?
Yes, it can. Yes.
Right. Before we get into the actual journey, do you remember what year or age you were when you got licensed and when you started that process? How long did it take?
I remember it very well. I couldn't remember if it took 2 or 3 years for the whole process, but I definitely know I passed the exam, and I received my letter in January of 2000. That I had passed the exam. I don't know if the rules have changed, but you have had to work under a certified public accountant, for your license to be recognized. So by the time I did another year, I became licensed a year after in 2001.
Okay.
So actually next year I will have been licensed for 20 years.
Well, congratulations. Well, you have a lot of knowledge and experience in the accounting field, that's for sure. Yes. So before we jump in talking about your career path and how you ended up where you are now, when you were going through that process, did you work in corporate, industry, public account, government? What experience do you have?
While I was taking the exam, I actually was working in nonprofit.
Okay.
I was working for actually the YMCA of Greater Cleveland,
Hmm.
and I was taking I took the exam first there, and then once I took it the first time. So as a matter of fact, I took it more than once,
Okay.
and I then moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 1998, and took transferred over everything and took it there.
How
So,
hard or difficult or maybe seamless was that process, transferring scores and
it
keeping
was
up with the
difficult.
requirements that Georgia may have had at the time? Or was it the same between Ohio and Georgia?
Well,
You have to use.
as far I came through the Becker CPA course,
Okay.
so I was able to grandfather that course. They were able to recognize me from one state to another because they had similar rules.
Okay.
However, I did have some bumps as far as at that time they were going through a transition where they required people to have some graduate courses.
Okay.
And I took my exam before that requirement, and so I was grandfathered in. But I did receive like some notification that they didn't have all my credits and they weren't going to let me take the exam. And so I did go through about 2 months of struggling to be allowed to take the exam in Atlanta.
Really? Okay. But
Hmm.
were you
Yeah.
discouraged at that point? Did you feel like,
Oh,
okay, do I need to go back to Ohio and finish the process?
I was thinking about it. but but yeah, it was difficult because I don't for me I s- I put a lot of pressure on myself, and so I was at the library every weekend, and I would go to the library and spend like 12 hours at the library every Saturday and Sunday. I would go maybe 2 times during the week while I was working, and it was just I was putting in a lot of hours, and to receive a letter saying that I wouldn't be able to take the
Right.
exam after had been working so hard. And also once I called them and explained that I had moved from one state to another, and they couldn't find all my credits because I had taken some summer courses.
Hmm.
And so it was, the lady on the phone she just wasn't very understanding and wasn't very kind.
Wow.
So so it was just very difficult at that moment. I remember just totally stressing out, and I remember my sister saying, "I can't believe you're getting that upset that somebody won't let you take an exam."
She just didn't
most
understand,
people
right?
want most people are okay, like, okay, don't give me an exam.
All right. I got
But
you.
it was that important to me. It really was. It was that important to me. I had worked very hard.
Right. And I'm
Mhm.
glad you shared that because you were able to overcome that and get past that
I did.
unexpected issue coming at
Hmm.
you. So again, we are always able to overcome and strategize and get around things. You just curveballs coming out of nowhere, right?
That's right.
But it
That's
can
right.
be
I was
done.
going to go back to school if I had to.
Right. Do what we have to do.
That's right.
Right. So I know you said you were working in nonprofit at the YMCA at that time. Did you have an
Mhm.
area of specialization or type of accounting you were doing for as a nonprofit
Actually,
world?
I'm sorry, but yeah, the majority of the work that I was doing was more what I call basic accounting,
Mhm.
where it's more of mastering the general ledger, making sure the books are clean. So, with the YMCA, they have multiple locations,
Mhm.
and it was my job to basically make sure that all of I can't remember how many locations they had, but let's say if they had about 15 locations at least, I had to do the financial statements for all of those locations and then roll them into a consolidated financial statement. So those are the fundamentals,
Right.
of accounting. And so that's where my structure started. And now that was when I started working. That was while I was studying for the CPA exam. But prior to that, I did work for a construction company,
Mhm.
and that was interesting also because that's a whole different breed of accounting. You have to understand construction accounting and things like that. So my background is quite varied.
Oh, okay. So you had got that baseline knowledge.
Yes,
And
yes, most definitely.
Working at the YMCA. So did you eventually get licensed while you were still employed at the at the Y?
No, because once I relocated to Atlanta,
Mhm.
I actually started working in property management accounting. So when I moved here, well, I should say here, I say here because I'm always in between South
Right.
Carolina and Georgia. But when I moved to Atlanta, I was still studying for the exam, but I was working for a property management firm. And that's where I I kept on taking the exam. I actually ended up taking the exam 4 times.
Okay.
The first time I passed business law, and I got above 60 in all the other 3 sections. And but of course, in the old days, I'm not sure of. I think they do it a little differently now,
So
and
at the
I'm
time you
not
were
trying.
taking it, so at the
I'm
time
sorry.
you were taking it, that's when it was over 2 day process, 2 days,
Yes.
and you had to
Hmm.
pass
And
or
you had to pass at least
two
two for
sections.
any.
Okay, gotcha. Go
Correct,
ahead.
correct. Yeah, so I passed business law, but since I didn't pass any others,
Mhm.
then that business law didn't count. The second time I passed 3 and got a 73 on
Oh,
financial. Hmm.
oh man.
Yeah.
No, that hurts. That hurts.
Hard.
But you didn't give up, evidently, right?
I
Reading
did
the
not. I
exam
did not give
68
up.
back
I
in the
did
day.
not give up. The second time. Well, I should say, then the third time I took it. The second time in Atlanta, I took it, but that would have been the third time. I just needed to just take the one course, the one section,
Mhm.
and I got a 69. And I think, yeah, it was going down. So I was really stressing. And I
Mhm.
think what I did, once again, I put too much pressure on myself, you know. And I think the last time I was like, you know what? Um, I I didn't give up, but I said, you know what? I feel like I can be successful without this, but
Mhm.
if this, I need to just stop and just, when I say let it go, not give up, but I needed to just release it and just, I guess, put it in the hands of the Lord.
Right.
And when I did, I went in, and also we had a death of a loved one, and that we took that pretty hard, and I think it put things in perspective.
Mhm.
And I think once you have things in perspective, you almost, once again, I think you let it go and you say, okay, universe, work it out.
Right.
And I think I went into the last exam with a sense of calm that I had not had before. And I passed it with an 81.
Oh,
So, I think, so I tell people all the time, I don't mind telling people how many times I took it, but I also make sure that I tell people you can definitely do it. It's doable, but you do have to work hard, and don't take, the preparation for granted.
you have to put the time in studying.
You have to put the time in. You have to put the time in.
So how many years was that process total?
From beginning to end, 3.
3 years. Okay.
And they had tighter requirements than they have now. Before, you had to wait 6 months
Mhm.
before you could take it again. You could only take it twice a year. So there were more restrictions. So I think in my process, I missed one opportunity while I was moving, in the process of moving. But then once I moved to Atlanta, I jumped right back into studying because I didn't want to lose my chances. And I also didn't want to lose the knowledge of what I had studied.
Right.
Mhm.
And being on that track, what was motivating you since you had switched jobs? Was it a personal
Well,
goal at that point, or maybe a difference between a promotion now that were you at the construction company at this point?
right. Well, to be honest, I actually, while I was I had married a high school classmate, and while I was in Cleveland, and uh, uh, um, not a high school classmate, excuse me, a college classmate. I had married, and I was going through a divorce, and I was planning on moving back to New York, where I was from, and then we decided, no, we're going to move closer. My mother and one of my siblings had relocated back to Greenville. So my other sister and I decided to get as close as possible to Greenville. So we chose Atlanta. But to be honest, going through my divorce, it made me reevaluate things and say, you know, what do I really want for myself? And I realized that that was something that I had always kind of out feared while I was in college. I had a fear of the CPA exam, and I decided, you know what, I don't like living with, you know, being afraid. So I
Okay.
said, I'm going to tackle my fears. And that was one of, and I had also, I should say, while I was in college, I had also had a teacher tell me that he didn't think I'd be a good accountant. And
Really?
that was an accounting teacher. So I think going through my divorce and hearing somebody say that, telling me I can't,
Right.
and I know I had it in me. And so those were my two drivers, you know, for me. So I don't do well with saying somebody telling me I can't.
The limitations on you, huh? I will
Yeah,
show you at this
yeah,
point.
that's right. If I put them on myself, that's on me, but I'm not going to let somebody else put them on me.
I understand.
That's
So you
right.
mentioned Becker. You
Mhm.
used Becker. Was that just somebody recommended that? How did you, what factored into your decision for your review prep course in choosing Becker?
Yeah, to be honest, somebody recommended it. You know, that was the top well-known course, you know, back in the day. And so I listened to people, you know, and they were like, you know, Becker, Becker, Becker. And I have to say, you know, the course was helpful, but to be honest, the instructor was the best part of it, you know, as far as I think it has to do with the instructor and how they guide you,
So
you
you
know.
went to live in-person classes,
Yes,
right?
yes. And during my time, this was all, you know, face to face.
Mhm.
It was all class led. Just as I graduated was when they were beta testing the automated testing.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
And the self-study, self-paced online.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right. Yeah. So, and I think that's also what helped me pass the exam was that um, during that time when I was studying for the exam the last time, they had just instituted where you can get a CD
Mhm.
and it would have a practice exam.
Oh,
And so I think that helped with the repetition, you
okay.
know, so, and you could, you know, you could answer the questions and it would kind of grade you and things like that. So that helped for me, that kind of automated testing, because that also timed you. And that also helped me work within that time parameter where, you know, um, for me, I lose all space and time when I'm focused. So that for me, it helped me focus with understanding I was under a you know, time pressure.
Gotcha. Even when it was the tests were given over a 2-day period, it was still timed. Each section was timed.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. We had, it was a 2-day session. And so you took 2 parts on one day and 2 parts on the other day. And so each one of them were about 4 hours long. So
Which
yeah,
is what it is now. I think
what it is
retake it
now.
might be three hours and two might be 4, or all of them
Right.
4 now. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard they went back up. I heard they had lowered the time and now it's gone back up. Mhm.
Oh, okay. So was the price a factor? Because you mentioned Becker, which is top notch, if
It was
considered.
expensive, you know, and it's funny the things I remember and the things I don't. I remember it was expensive
Mhm.
and I was paying out of pocket
Okay.
and and all of the companies I work for, so you know, a lot of times nonprofits, they just don't have the funds to pay
Okay.
for tuition or anything. But also even when I moved and I asked the company that I was working for
Mhm.
if they would help reimburse me either fully or in part for the exam, they were like, no, because in their mind, they felt I was taking the exam so I could leave the company, not move up into in the company, but to leave the company. So they said um, they had it down as a class that was not part of my position, not required as part of my position.
Interesting. Isn't that something? But
Mhm.
you still took it upon yourself
Still did it. That's
to
right, because
be
I
more
was like,
competitive in the job market, right?
that's right.
Not let that hold you back. Gosh.
That's exactly right.
So with you explaining that, I guess it goes without saying that they wouldn't reimburse for any of the testing fees then.
Mm-mm. No, no, no. Even my license, at one point in the later years, I was with that company for 5 years. In the later years, when they started to pay for some of the accountants, some of the people who were CPAs, if they would pay for our dues,
Okay.
some of the memberships, then that would be, some, if that was like really close to the end of my time there.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned going through that process, a loved one passing away and
Mm-hmm.
divorce. How
Mm-hmm.
did you navigate that and stay on track or come back to where you want to be career wise when you had life happening around you?
Oh yeah, but by the grace of God, to be honest. But I think it has to do with determination,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to let sadness in any way be what defined me.
Okay.
And I also believe the day that I found out that I passed the exam, was I received, we had actually come home from the funeral of that loved one.
Oh, goodness.
So I took that definitely as a sign from God, because we literally came back from that person's funeral and the letter was in the mail.
So a bittersweet day in
It
a
was
sense.
a bittersweet day, but it's etched in my memory, January 31st.
Right. You crying on one
Mhm.
end or maybe mourning, but yet probably
Mhm.
sure excitement and joy
Oh,
that this is
yes, yes.
over.
Yeah, it was definitely a special moment. And, it basically, I felt like I came full circle, emotionally and just mentally and even physically, because it took a physical toll with a lot of lost sleep.
Right. So how did you prioritize and what sacrifices did you make when you said losing sleep or social life
Hmm.
or family life?
Well, that's definitely no socializing. Now, some other people can balance it. For me, I couldn't. For me, I had to really be focused. And so, like I said, my evenings, my weekends, they were dedicated to the exam. That was my date. The CPA exam was my boyfriend, and that's what it was.
All right, that's that commitment, right?
It
That
was
you
that commitment. It literally was. And, and now, other people might have to balance it in other ways, but for me, like I said, I was newly divorced, so I wasn't really looking to do to meet anyone new right away. And I really wanted to build myself up.
Mhm.
Uh, and that for me, that was important as part of building myself up. That was an important goal.
So just because of timing or what had happened, you didn't have that distraction.
That's right. That's
Just one little
exactly
thing
right.
you have to be bothered with if you look at it
That's
that way.
that's right.
But that's okay if you're balancing a spouse and family life. That's
It
cool
is.
too. That's
It is
look.
cool, most definitely. Yeah, especially, I definitely know, I had some classmates, I remember having a classmate that was pregnant and
Oh,
she had a young child. She had a child that was like 2 years old and she was pregnant with another and she passed it on the first go,
whoa.
so, but she had a supportive husband,
Of
and he was all about you study and, we used to be study partners. So, I'm definitely not saying that it cannot be done without, if you're married or have, a family or anything like that, because I saw it. And like I said, she passed and was able to leave me in the dust.
course.
So,
But you
and I
mentioned
wasn't mad
something.
at her.
But you mentioned something that's very important. She had that's very important. She had a support system.
That's correct. That is correct. And that's what it really takes. When I moved to Atlanta, my sister was still in New York at the time. So we moved to Atlanta at the same time and we were rooming together. But she was also a support system for me. And, you know, um, that, she actually told me, she was like, you better pass this exam,
She's your
so
cheerleader.
she was a different type of support system. But she was like, you better pass this exam because I'm tired of you working so much. And
She's
she was
holding
like,
you accountable. She
she
was a
was holding me.
cheerleader, but she was
Yeah,
holding your
yeah,
accountability.
but she was like, if you're spending all this time studying and everything, I want to see some results. So yeah, so she was, but that helped also because I knew my family was cheering for me,
Mhm.
but also I understood I had high expectations for myself, but also I knew my family expected that if I'm going to work that hard, that it should be something that I should be able to accomplish if I'm sacrificing so much.
Right. Which is good to keep us
Mhm.
keep us
Yeah,
going in that direction, or you don't get
that's
off
right.
track. Somebody pull you back or hold you accountable, ask what is going on, what's the progress, and but at the same time be
Mhm.
positive and be a cheerleader as well.
That's right. Yes, she was both a cheerleader and a bossy lady. So it was good.
I know she's proud of you though.
Yes.
I know. Well, back to you were talking about how your employer wasn't necessarily supportive in that job where you were about to
Hmm.
be licensed. So my
Hmm.
question is about a salary. So
Hmm.
do you feel like at the time your salary was in line with industry standards, or since they weren't supportive of you getting the credentials, they knew you would be underpaid or currently underpaid anyway?
Yes, I definitely feel for when I first came into the company, I definitely felt I had a solid salary. I felt it could be a little higher. From what I had heard at the time, Atlanta was bustling and the economy was booming, and it
Mhm.
was just after the Olympics. So I felt that I should have been paid slightly higher, but I'm very big on, okay, I'll prove myself. I'll
Okay.
prove that I'm worthy of, an increase that in salary. But even after I passed the exam, my salary did not move with the, with me getting my exam
Okay.
and passing the exam. And also I want to make sure it's clear that um, I'm one of those people where my salary did not and does not match my license, and that's what I'm working on changing now is and I'm thankful that opportunities are starting to come my way where doors are starting to open, but it took me having to go out on my own to really find my worth, to be honest.
So what finally was the, I guess, broke the camel's back, or the last straw, or was it kind of part-time and a gradual thing, or did you decide, okay, I'm quitting and I am going to start my own firm, or were you ever
Uh,
on the side, as we say, maybe a side hustle, a part-time thing, and
yes.
nobody ever knew what was going on?
Right. Well, one of the things I actually I never hid that I had a side bookkeeping
Okay.
business. I actually started that bookkeeping business while I was in Cleveland,
Mhm.
and I was working multiple jobs while I was in Ohio, and when I came to Atlanta, it actually happened where it was like, oh, somebody would say to my siblings, oh, your sister does taxes, she does bookkeeping, can she do mine?
Mhm.
So I actually have had, up until the last, I would say 24 months, all of my business has come by way of referral through family and friends. And so that has been a blessing.
Yeah.
So my business followed me, and that definitely was my side hustle for many years. But I always wanted to grow. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had fears of, I have a fear of debt. So, and
I guess we all
had,
should, but I don't
yeah,
know.
I had college debt. I had, I busted my knee in college and had medical debt. I had, so I had school loans.
Mhm.
I had, like I said, medical bills, and I also had divorce debt.
Mhm.
And so for me, you know, I wanted to be out of debt before I went out on my own.
Okay.
And that didn't happen until about 5 years ago. And so, but I definitely still wanted to continue educating myself, continue working with other businesses. I was willing to stay at those companies longer, but, some companies, that first company I worked with, they gave me an amazing foundation in property management accounting. And I worked in property management accounting for 18 years in Atlanta, and did very well there. But then, that company was bought out, and another company I worked with, I was laid off because it was during the turn in the economy in 2008, so there were different variables that happened along the way. But then the last company I worked with, I knew that after that company, I was going to go independent, and I probably wouldn't look back.
Step out on your own, huh?
Mhm. I knew at that point. I knew before then, and then I let fear jump in, and I stayed with them,
Stay longer than
and
you should
then
have.
and then I grew some courage.
Gotcha. But you were building your business along the way.
Oh yes, yes. I was, I was always trying to build my business along the way,
Mhm.
but I did feel that I wasn't going to really get the success if I didn't have the space and the time to put in. And
Okay.
that's why when I did decide to go, I knew, that the last company I worked with, they gave bonuses.
Mhm.
And when they gave us a bonus in January, I didn't spend it. I put it in my savings. And because I knew I would be leaving.
So you
So
got
that was
connected.
that carried me through while once I left and, needed funds to cover rent and everything else. That was what I used to carry me through to build my clientele.
Gotcha. Oh, so at that point you had a plan. You knew you were going to have an office space,
Oh yeah.
not a
I've
home
actually
based
been
business.
working out of a home office.
Mhm.
So yeah, so but that definitely is a goal I would like to work out of,
Mhm.
that's a goal that I would like to achieve, is to have a independent space,
Uh-huh.
office space. And I love my home office, but I find that the atmosphere of an office gets my blood flowing and gets
Mhm.
my intellectual juices flowing. So, so that's something I would like to work towards. But, once again, I like to make sure that I'm mindful of the overhead costs of an office.
Right. Oh, so now that you've stepped out on your own, you have your own firm. What are some issues you've encountered, but then some of the successes of
Oh
being
yeah,
able to
most
call your
definitely.
own shots?
Oh yeah. Well, definitely. One of the things I think, I'll talk about the cons first. I always like to end on a good note, but
Okay.
but I would say the cons really are that when you're starting out, I've definitely learned it's really who not so, you still have to have the knowledge,
Mhm.
but it really is about who you know. And I realized, because it may not seem like it, but I'm quite an introverted person. And I always believe, well, my work will speak for me. And people will come to me and say, Telena, I like the way you did that.
Mhm.
How about this? And it's not like that, and I learned very late in my career that how it really is.
You speak on that more about having those soft skills and people
Oh,
do business
yes.
with who they know, like, and trust.
Most definitely. And I know that I didn't have uh, I didn't have a mentor
Mhm.
coming through with my career, and I think that was a big factor in my development. And also, if you with NABA, with
Mhm.
National Association for Black Accountants, they talk about having sponsors,
Okay.
not only having mentors, but having a sponsor, somebody who really is your cheerleader, somebody who can help point you in the right direction and guide you through your career. I didn't have that either. Every job that I had, um, even when I asked for something more, even if it wasn't, I've asked for more responsibility and said, don't pay me more, just give me more responsibility, let me prove myself. And I've
Okay.
been told no. Yeah. So, so for me, and that was another thing. So for me, I definitely feel it's who you know, it's people who see the talent in you,
Mhm.
and that's very important. I think if somebody is in a company where I don't. I would never tell somebody get up and walk out, but if you don't feel that you're in a company where they're lifting you up and they're cheering for you and they're giving you responsibilities, especially as you want them, and and giving they should give you honest feedback. If if you ask for more responsibility, they should give you honest feedback on whether you do well or not, but that they probably might not be in the right company. Some
I agree with that, but sometimes you need that steady paycheck.
sometimes you need that steady. That's why I say I don't tell people to get up and go, but you should be mindful of where you're at. I definitely believe, even if you can't get up and go, you should be realistic about where you're at and still make the best of it while you're there.
Right.
Don't shut down, don't give up on and let your work suffer, because I also believe, and I think it's especially important in the Black community, is that our work has to speak for ourselves, have to speak for us twice as much.
Yeah.
So if you're working at 75% capacity, to somebody else, they're going to think of it that you're working at 25%. But so for me, the cons were that I didn't really have, to me, intra-company cheerleaders and mentors, and also my salary. It was always a struggle to get my salary to grow.
Mhm.
But the pro about it was that every place I went, I gained more and more knowledge. I gained more and more knowledge, and so I kept on building up my foundation, building up my fundamentals, strengthening them, and I'm starting to see that pay off.
Right. Got you. So since you've been on your own, have you found it a struggle to build enough business to sustain your lifestyle that you had before you stepped out on your own? Or what?
I'm actually still in that process, but one of the things I literally, once COVID hit, I really thought, things were going to take a dive
Mhm.
financially, and actually it didn't. I actually in March, I actually was approached by two different companies for me to do some bookkeeping for them. One was supposed to be temporary, and they, after 2 or 3 months of working with them, they asked me to stay on board, and now we're asking me to do more work,
Right.
and so I'm I've been super blessed and so grateful of these opportunities, because I know so many people have been hit financially, and jobs have been taken away and lost, that I'm so appreciative of these opportunities that have come my way. So I feel like I'm seeing the upswing, where over the past few years, like I said, I'm about 4 years in my journey from when I left corporate America and became 100% self-employed. And it was always a roller coaster. During the busy season for accounting is
Mhm.
tend to be the fourth quarter of a year and the first quarter of the year. So those 6 months I was doing well. And then, you dive and you live off of those funds for the
True.
next 6 months until it goes again. And so I really thought I was going to see not only a dive that was part of the normal trajectory,
Mhm.
but also see it, hit real hard. And when March came, and it didn't happen, so I've been able to cover my bills. I'm still debt free,
Awesome.
and I'm just very proud of that.
That's great. So for those of you thinking about going in this direction of CPA, you can see it's pandemic proof, recession proof, because of
Yeah.
people I have interviewed who have their own firm. They're saying the same thing that you were
Mhm.
saying. They were almost in panic mode, thinking business would dry up or come to a screeching halt, and they've said it increased. They
Yeah,
did not expect that. So
I
that is
didn't.
good.
And
That is good to hear and
yeah,
see.
I guess it's because more people want to have a better sense of their finances, even if
Mhm.
it's less, they still need a handle on it. I guess it's that. And, but yeah, I had not had my ear to the floor to see how other firms were doing, but it brings me joy to hear that they're saying the same thing.
Right, which I'm shocked to hear that. So for those of you thinking about it, or you just got dipping your toe over there, I might confess a little bit. You're like, oh no, let me keep this steady 9 to 5. This gig is working, but to hear that you're being successful during one of the worst times around the world regarding the pandemic, and then economically to see that accounting professionals and those CPAs are still able to be successful and build their firms, because I'm hearing that new business is coming.
Yes, I'm getting new business, and literally since March, I've gotten at least 5 new clients.
That's encouraging. I am just, like, again, I'm shocked, but I'm encouraged, and I'm so happy to hear that for you.
Well,
That
thank
is
you.
great.
Yes, I feel very blessed.
No, and then too, not having a mentor. What are your thoughts on that within the Black community in trying to expose more people to the profession?
Yeah, I really hope that we do mentor each other more. I haven't jumped into mentoring because, to be honest, I felt my journey has been so not structured, you know.
Untraditional.
But I've
But let
never.
me say this before you go any further. Most
Mhm.
Black people seems to have a different, unique journey. It's not the typical major in accounting, straight CPA or master's degree. So let me say that as you
Right.
describe your journey.
And you are right about that. But one of the things I'll say is I've never refused anybody who's ever asked me how I went about it. I've always been honest about my journey. And so I've never signed up to be a mentor for accounting, but I've always stayed open to anybody who's ever wanted to talk to me about it. So I've had family friends whose children were going to college and they were considering accounting. And I've talked to them about what I would recommend, and things like that. And so I definitely keep myself open that if anybody wants to talk about it or anything, I will never tell somebody no.
Well, I've just thought about adding this question to the list of things I'd like to cover. And this one, when did you meet your first Black CPA?
Oh gosh.
And then too, if you can kind of frame the conversation, was it in personal setting, or was it once you were a CPA and then working in the field?
To
Because
be
that's
honest,
part of this discussion issue is, well,
yeah,
if you're not
that's
meeting until you're already in the profession of working, how do we get
yeah.
people coming
Yeah,
behind?
to be honest, I think it was when I went, they have like a little kind of luncheon where they give you your license. And that was when I saw other Black people.
So, okay, which leads to my next question. How do we close the gap and increase the number of Black
Mhm.
CPAs in the United States, which right now represents less than 1% of
Yeah.
650,000?
Right. Well, definitely, I think it has to. I think it has to come from organizations that already exist, and if they're not going to do it, then it has to be new organizations that are created. But I also believe in a grassroots way of doing things. I believe that if somebody won't do it, then we don't let it stop us. We still do it in a grassroots way. So we do it by the community forums online. We do it by maybe having rat sessions where it's like you're invited to this Zoom thing and we're just gonna, Black CPAs meet and, and we network and and talk about the pros and the cons and things like that. But, we've met, you and I met through the NABA forum. So I definitely, I've been part of NABA since my college days. So I definitely believe NABA is a strong enough organization that that they can do more. And I know there are other organizations out there also. But I definitely believe it needs to take place from all different ways, not just one way. But I definitely believe we need to start collaborating more. Everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody, but there are a lot of people where we're just self-employed, and I'm talking about myself. You're just a one-man operation, but
Okay.
real success, we need to have coalitions. We need to tag team on projects. If they're, I've been researching bidding on projects, government projects, but you need to have a team available and ready to go if you're, if you're granted the bid on a project. But if we have, 30 CPA firms that won't interact with each other and won't team up,
Mhm.
then we're not being successful. But imagine if, we team up, and we bid on a job and work on a job together. So I think we need to do more things together. you know, um, I think just in general, it's been the nature of Black people taught to fight against each other. I think we need to stop that. And I
Competition.
think we need to do more things in order and with each other. And I think when we have Black businesses working together and something goes wrong, a lot of the times people will say, I'm never going to work with another Black business. But if you work with another business that's not a Black business and they do you wrong, you still go back to them. So I feel like one of the things we really need to do is do stuff together, work together. If bookkeeping isn't your thing, refer somebody where bookkeeping is your thing. If tax isn't your thing, refer somebody else. But pass on your customers that if you feel you can't serve them best. So I think and don't be afraid of that. And I have no fear that I've done taxes so much, but I've worked and I've wanted to grow in my tax knowledge, but I'm just so busy with everything else that if I had a client that had complex taxes, I would tell them I'm not the one, but I have 2 or 3 other CPAs that I know of that I've referred them to, and I have no problem doing that. And I think that's the mindset we need to come from.
Yeah. Okay. So listening to you sounds like we need to network,
Mhm.
collaborate, and in doing it, be fearless.
Be fearless. That's right.
And then too, if you pass and accomplish the CPA exam, I don't know what could or would hold you back anyway. What fear?
I tell people all the time, I was like, I'm sure I have a black eye and it's a fingerprint and it'll say CPA in there. It's like, because I felt battled and bruised.
You came out on the other side.
Came out on the other side, but yes, but it was difficult, but well worth it. I think if anybody asked me outside of just me being and having a loving family and having, the loved ones in my life, my CPA, passing the CPA exam has been one of my top accomplishments.
And I
Mm-hmm.
concur. That is wonderful. Congratulations to that. Nobody ever be able to take that away from
They
you.
can't take away from me unless I let them.
Even if you don't maintain the license, you always CPA. You always.
Yeah, I
But
tell you, most definitely. I make sure I get in my credit hours. I don't play.
right, because you worked hard, right? You can at
That's
least
right.
get through some
That's right.
webinars.
Oh, Lord, yes. I'm ahead of the game this year because with COVID, I was taking so many COVID courses. And, so yeah, so I'm ahead of the game this year with what I'm thankful for also.
That's good. Well, I want to circle back to a couple of things. When you took the exam, it was over a 2-day process, and some of the
Mhm.
course requirements may have been different. So right now, by the time you accumulate the 150 hours, it's pretty much equivalent to a graduate or master's degree.
Right.
So back then, you may not have had that requirement. Do you think, or would you encourage somebody to get a master's degree, or would
Yes.
having CPA be enough? Or do you think in this day and age, you need?
No. Get as much education as you can. Um, you know, if you can, I would definitely get a master's degree. People, and once again, I didn't have somebody there to tell me. At one point while I was in college, my college offered if you stay an extra year, you would come out with a master's degree. All I was thinking about was my student loans and how much I would have to pay. And I went to a private high school, so I was paying high school debt, high
Oh,
school loans, and college debt. and once again, medical debt. And, my mother could not financially help me in any way.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was all about the money. But I'll tell anybody now, 2 years goes so quickly, and nowadays you can have it in 12 to 15 months. Those months fly by. The having MBA behind your name along with CPA, that is, it can be so helpful to your career and also your salary. And I don't have it, and I also feel that there have been jobs that they're like, you can be a CPA, but you must have an MBA, and I don't have that, and that had stopped me from achieving some jobs in my past. So I would definitely tell somebody, get it. It's worth it. You know, the letters behind your name matter. I don't care what anyone else says. It used to be a time where you could work 30 years in the accounting field and move up.
Mhm.
But now, a lot of the times they have it as part of their policy that somebody who's in a leadership position has to have a certain amount of, at the very least, a college degree. But most of the time now it's a master's or some other type of credential.
Right. Well, thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'll be honest about what went wrong. I'm not going to say it went wrong, but those were, the forks in my career. Those were the things that I felt might have held me back. But like I said, if I would have had somebody that says the money will take care of itself,
Mhm.
because you
And you can
stay
go one
another
more
year,
year and come
you
out
can
with a
get
dual
right,
degree, your bachelor's
right.
and master's.
Come out with that, and it makes a huge difference. It honestly does. I've seen it over and over. It really does make a difference. So I definitely would tell people, don't stress over that. Get that master's, and get that CPA. Yeah, you're in like Flint. And I know that's an old school term, but okay.
Yeah, you went back on me.
I did. I'm sorry. I
Well,
told my age on that one.
thank you for sharing that experience. That's okay, but you're speaking to knowledge being power.
Hmm. Yes.
And a lot of
And I
times,
honestly don't want, everybody has to have their own journey and make their own mistakes, because, making the mistakes also builds you up,
sure.
but if I can help somebody not make the same mistakes that I made, you know, and make them come out financially better sooner, I
Yeah.
would want that for them.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that's what this channel is about, to how to avoid some of the pitfalls that we've gone through so you
Mhm.
can realize some successes much earlier in your career and in life. So that's what it is all about.
That's
So
right.
as we wrap up, I didn't really get to this, but I do want to ask you, because we
Sure.
did talk about being underrepresented. What about the pass rates? Although you work in the profession, from being a bookkeeper, staff accountant, or maybe
Mhm.
tax preparer, and then
Mhm.
you think about being a CPA, what can we do to encourage those who think about getting on the journey and pursuing it, but for whatever reason they get derailed, discouraged, or feel the money's running out?
Right. One of the things, well, first of all, I would tell people, if you're not sure if you want to get into accounting, think about maybe working in an accounting firm, or even in a lot of the times when we work in a law office, they need like bookkeepers and things like that. You'll find, you'll learn those basics. But I would say definitely work in the accounting field and see if you like it. But also understand that the accounting field is so broad. It's not just tax. It's not just audit. It's not just corporate accounting. It's so broad. Every type of company needs an accountant. you
True.
know and so maybe think about where your passion lies as far as an industry.
Mhm.
If I could have broken into the entertainment accounting industry, I would have gone in that direction. But once again, it's who you know. you know
Right.
so to me, try and get a job in that industry and see how it works for you. But I definitely feel it's all about first of all, not giving up, but also you have to work in the industry where your passion lies. And if it's not exactly your passion, then think of it as I'm building some fundamentals. I'm learning. Don't ever think of something as wasted time. But I definitely feel test the waters early. A lot of the times people, want a mid-level job without starting in an entry-level position. And so to me, start out, on these jobs, even if it's a part-time job where you might need, if your regular job can support you, but you want to test the waters about going in this direction, then maybe do it as a part-time thing. But I would say test the waters and see if it's something you really like, because really a lot of the times people find out that once they're in, if you want to leave that profession, you would have to go and get a whole new education and whatever else you're interested in.
So see if it lines up with your interests, but then go ahead, then pursue the CPA designation.
That's right, yeah. But I definitely would also say if you really feel, to me, still work on getting your education. And if you have the ability to do them both, and you're like, okay, I'm liking this, and I think, to me, don't just end up being a bookkeeper. If you're going to get into accounting, shoot for the stars, go for the CPA, go for the CFE, go for those credentials.
Okay.
And the masters, go for them, because nowadays, the world, we live in a global society, and people can be more selective, and they want to see people with letters behind your name, and also it also lends to the fact that, if you ever want to be an entrepreneur, that also helps you in your own business.
Well, basically, you led into my last question, which is, what does having CPA behind your name mean to you?
Mm-hmm. For me, it means everything. Like I said, for me, it means I did something on my own. It means that I did something that my family could be proud of. It meant that I overcame adversity. It meant that I told somebody I can when they told me I can't. So for me, it symbolizes so much more than me just being able to get up and go into work each day. It symbolizes really how I fought, to get it. So it's very important to me. And I think for many people, like I said, everybody has their own story. I would imagine that for many people, it probably means something similar.
Right. Cool. Any parting thoughts or advice you'd like to leave the audience with?
One of the things, definitely continue your education. Continue your education and get your credentials. One of the things nobody can ever take away from you is your education. And so I'm a big believer in gaining more knowledge and everything like that. So I definitely would say that. But I definitely believe for people who are interested in becoming CPAs or are early in the CPA career, I hope that you will team up with other people, have a good support system, not only in your family, but also within the CPA community. I really believe that, and not only the Black community, but in the Black community, but also outside of it. I think it's having that kind of support system is very important. So I would definitely say, support each other, cheer each other on, reach back and bring up another, that all of that is very important, and there are things that, those are some things that I wish I had.
Right. Well, thank you, Ms. Bolding, for taking time out of your schedule to be with me and share your CPA journey and through your career to where you are now, having your own firm. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Success through this pandemic and on the other side. Thank you for being an open book. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
So we learn, collaborate, network, be fearless.
That's right.
Step out on your own. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope you watched this entire interview and learned something and was inspired. So share the videos, click on other videos, and remember who you are and whose you are, and there's no time like the present.
Most definitely.